Hey everyone, and welcome to Boston Autoblog. How do you stand out amongst the crowd in the compact crossover market? Because there's plenty of options to go with if you're looking to buy a vehicle at around $25,000 to $40,000. Well, one way is to create a vehicle that has aggressive and sporty styling and also futuristic looks. And I think that's exactly what we have here today with the 2022 Hyundai Tucson. The second way is to provide a list of comfort and luxury features, especially if you're looking to buy a vehicle at around $35,000 to $40,000, and we're going to experience that later in this review. But today, with the 2022 Hyundai Tucson, is this one of the best vehicles you can buy in its segment? Now, there is no denying that Hyundai has been on a roll as of late over the last 5 years or so, creating some amazing cars, but also focusing on the smaller details that we just don't see in this segment. So they're giving you luxury features, they're giving you refinement, and there's really not many brands out there doing that. I think Mazda is probably the closest one right now. Also, of course, Hyundai's cousin, which would be Kia. But really, when you look at Toyota, Honda, Ford, and Chevrolet, they're just not there. They're not providing luxury at an attainable price point. Now, the Tucson, of course, is a compact crossover, so you don't really expect to receive all the bells and whistles. You don't really experience all the creature comforts that you're going to get in, say, a Santa Fe or a Palisade. However, for 2022, this vehicle is all new, and they've given you an experience unlike any other in this segment. Now, if you are familiar with the interior for the last generation Tucson, you're going to remember that it was a bit outdated and falling behind some of its closest competitors. But for 2022, it's all new, and I think it's most certainly going to impress. So in this video, we're going to get our first look at the 2022 Hyundai Tucson, see how it compares to other vehicles in its segment, and also see why, if you're looking at buying a compact crossover in 2021, going with the all-new Tucson might be a great decision. Now, before I get in this video, I want to give a huge shout out and thank you to McGovern Hyundai in Brocton, Massachusetts for allowing me to do this review. The link will be in the description below so you can check out their extensive Hyundai inventory. And so, without wasting any further time, let's get right in this review. Ask consumers what their vehicle of choice would be in 2021, and a majority of them will say a compact crossover because of the practicality, available all-wheel drive, and perceived value for the price. While there are a dime a dozen and you have a long list of options to choose from, most crossovers in this segment aren't going to give you an entry-level luxury experience, let alone a driving environment and interior quality that's going to keep you engaged behind the wheel on longer drives. Hyundai has been on a mission to change that, as they're emphasizing quality and comfort without having to go broke to do so, while also focusing on the smaller details that most competitors just won't commit any attention to. The completely redesigned 2022 Tucson could very well be the crossover that revolutionizes this segment, as its outward appearance and classy interior differ greatly from its closest rivals. Starting off with pricing, the Hyundai Tucson Limited comes in at $34,700, with all-wheel drive being a $1,400 option. For 2022, there has been a rearranging of the trim levels, as the Limited now sits at the top of the product line for the Tucson. And all new will be the N line, which will give this crossover a sportier look. It's not just the design that's changed for this new generation. There's also a significant improvement to the dimensions. Compared to last year, the Tucson has grown 6 inches in length and a ½ inch in width and height, which will have a profound effect on the interior space and cargo room, making it more practical and family-friendly than last generation. Where Hyundai has drawn some praise throughout the last few years is with their insistency to give each vehicle its own distinct personality, and the 2022 Tucson is no exception. While you may see design elements from the Elantra, especially with the front grille, there is no mistaking this crossover from its siblings. And the one thing that everyone is talking about is the LED daytime running lights, that in my opinion is the coolest cosmetic feature on this crossover, making it appear as though the grille itself is illuminated. Just like we're seeing with most of the lineup for Hyundai, LED headlights will be separated from the DRLs, and that's an aesthetic feature that we also saw with the Santa Fe. Another aspect of the front fascia that stands out is the lack of plastic cladding, to give the Tucson a more entry-level luxury look rather than being like the competitors who are no strangers to giving their crossovers rugged designs. Moving over to the side profile, the Limited will be sitting on 19-inch alloy wheels, and it's from this angle where you really see the futuristic body lines that to a certain degree blend in seamlessly with the rest of the design, thanks to the phantom black paint color. Adding some contrast will be brushed aluminum accents that integrate into the C-pillar, and you've probably noticed the roofline is more squared off to give passengers better headroom. You'll also have body color folding side mirrors with turn signal indicators to go along with blind spot detection for added safety. Then coming around to the back, the Tucson will no longer fly below the radar, as the styling is far more bold from the reserve design we saw with the last generation. Catching your eye immediately is the redesigned LED taillights, with an illuminated light bar that runs the length of the rear fascia, which has become a trend in the automotive industry as of late. Just like with the Santa Fe, the turn signals will be found on the lower portion of the rear bumper, and overall, when you look at this crossover, despite the sharper body lines, both the front and rear ends have been molded to have a more rounded appearance to move away from the boxy look we see quite often in this segment. Under the hood, the Hyundai Tucson is powered by a 2.5-liter 4-cylinder engine that puts out 187 horsepower and 182 pound-feet of torque, and is paired with an 8-speed automatic transmission. But for those who desire better performance and efficiency, there will be an optional 1.6-liter turbocharged hybrid 4-cylinder engine that puts out 226 horsepower, and there will also be a plug-in hybrid variant with 261 horsepower. While the new Tucson is better than its predecessor when it comes to the driving environment and comfort, I was begging for more power during the test drive, so I do recommend waiting for the hybrid model to arrive. For the drivetrain, front-wheel drive will come standard, but our model in this review is equipped with all-wheel drive. For fuel economy, you can expect to receive right around 26 miles per gallon in the city and 33 miles per gallon on the highway. Stepping inside, you're given power-adjustable heated and ventilated leather seats for both the driver and passenger, with the driver's side being 2-position memory for added convenience. With the optional gray interior, all the smaller details become far more noticeable, as the contrast brings out the gloss black interior trim and highlights the dashboard and center console layout. Where buyers will be most pleased with this refresh is with the amount of technology you now have available, such as the 10-inch digital gauge cluster, which arguably might just be the highest quality display we've seen in this segment, besides Kia, which shares the same tech. From here, you can scroll through a variety of information, but more importantly, it's also here where your blind spot cameras will appear, adding a bit more safety when you're changing lanes on the highway. Then moving over to the infotainment system, you have a 10-inch touchscreen with Apple CarPlay and Android Auto compatibility to go along with onboard navigation and the Bose sound system. While there aren't physical buttons that can quickly get you to different menus, this head unit is very responsive, with no lagging whatsoever, and is reminiscent to Audi's MMI user interface when it comes to resolution and functionality. As with most infotainment systems, there will be a bit of a learning curve at the beginning if you're coming from a previous generation Tucson, but it does become second nature to use after a few minutes. By opting for the Limited trim, you're going to receive a variety of camera angles to help you park, with front and rear backup cameras with trajectory, a top view, and side views to make sure you don't curb your wheels or hit another parked car. Below, you'll find the touch-sensitive buttons for your dual-zone climate control and front and rear defrosters. And as we work our way down towards the center console, you'll have a cubby for a wallet, a wireless phone charger, 2 USB inputs, and a 12-volt outlet. Giving the interior an upscale look, the center console is cleanly laid out, with the buttons for your 3-level heated and ventilated seats, heated steering wheel, and camera angles all within arm's reach. Of course, you will have a drive mode selector and buttons to select the gear you want to be in. And for the upscale look, gloss black trim will contrast nicely with the brushed aluminum pieces. For the center storage compartment, you'll find enough room for smaller items. And rounding out the front seating area, above will be a massive panoramic moonroof to let in a lot of natural light to the interior. Now, to go a little more in depth on the interior for the 2022 Hyundai Tucson, I want to give my initial impression here, because I feel as though Hyundai is giving us an experience that we're just not seeing in this segment at this price point. Because when you're spending around $38,000 for a compact crossover, you expect at least an entry-level luxury experience, and that's exactly what we have here with this vehicle. Now, I am not saying that this is comparable to, say, a Mercedes-Benz, BMW, or Audi product. However, it is miles ahead of what we see from the Toyotas and Hondas of the world. I was a big fan of the Mazda CX-5. I still think it's a great vehicle in its segment, but the Tucson is a bit better in more ways than one. So you have a digital gauge cluster, you have a 10-inch touchscreen, you have really nice premium features that maybe we don't see from competitors, but also it's the layout as well. So the center console, everything is within arm's reach. So if you are driving and reclining, everything is right here. So you have your heated and ventilated seat buttons, you have your heated steering wheel, also your camera angles, and then of course your drive mode selector. Everything is right here. But to me, the Kia Hyundai family, even though we wouldn't necessarily say that they're a luxury brand, it's their presentation that really stands out to me. Now, they're not a 5-star restaurant, they're not a 5-star hotel, but maybe a 4-star hotel where you're getting creature comforts, but you're not going broke to do so. I think Hyundai has done an amazing job where at $38,000, you feel as though you're getting exactly what you're paying for. You have a classy interior. This is really impressive to me. What they've done from last generation, this is miles ahead. And I think that if you are coming from a last generation Tucson, you're going to feel as though that you've upgraded substantially. And that is exactly what I'm looking for a vehicle that is all new. You're not going to notice anything from last generation. This is quite impressive. Now, for passengers in the back, we're going to start off on the passenger side, and the seat is adjusted further back. It's also somewhat on a recline, and I still have a few inches of legroom to work with here, which is great to see because in most compact crossovers, it can become a bit of a squeeze. However, there is a lot of room to work with here, and that's what's drawing me in. So even when it comes to headroom, you have plenty of it, even with this massive panoramic sunroof. So if you're on maybe 5'9", 5'10", you're going to be sitting back here very comfortably. Also, these seats do recline. So if you are on a longer road trip with the family, you can really relax back here and just enjoy the driving experience. Now, for the center seat, there are some great placements for my feet. The center hump is not very aggressive at all, so theoretically, you could fit a third person in the center. However, just like we see with a lot of compact crossovers, I think shoulder room is going to be a bit of an issue. So even though the center hump is not aggressive, which would impede on legroom, I think if you had average sized adults back here, they are going to be squished if you have 3 of them sitting across. If you had 3 kids, it might work, but I still think that since this is a compact crossover, it's going to be best for just 2 people back here. Now, for the driver's side, the seat is adjusted to someone of my height, around 5'5", and I have plenty of legroom to work with here. So you can just sit back here, relax, and enjoy the driving experience. And especially if you are shorter like me, you're going to be just fine. Now, one thing that you're probably noticing is that just how low the second row seats do sit. So that's to maximize headroom. And really, we see this across the board with some brands where they do emphasize having that extra headroom where you could have average size adults or have the family back here and they'd be comfortable. So this is great to see what Hyundai has done to the Tucson for 2022 is just really remarkable, especially where you look at the last generation where it was a bit outdated, but they really focus on the smaller details where this vehicle could be a great daily driver if you do have a family. Also back here, you will have 2 rear air vents to go along with 2 USB inputs. Also on the door rest, you will find a button for your 2-level heated outboard seats. And rounding out the rear seating area, you do get a center armrest with 2 cup holders. Now, coming around to the back, you're going to receive a power liftgate. And inside, you're going to find right around 38.5 cubic feet of rear cargo space. Now, think about that for a minute, because that is bigger than most compact crossovers. But more importantly, that's more space than what we saw in the Hyundai Santa Fe by about 3 cubic feet. Now, compared to last generation, you've gained about 7 cubic feet of room. And back here, this reminds me of what I saw in the Volkswagen Tiguan. So this is a really practical vehicle, and I could fit all my camera gear back here and still have plenty of room for any other items, whether it's groceries or maybe even bags of luggage if I'm going on a road trip. There is plenty of room. So I think you could fit probably 3 or 4, if not more, bags of luggage if you are going on a road trip with the family. This is beyond impressive. Then with the second row seats folded, that space right on doubles in size, and right then and there you now have a vehicle that is more practical than most of the competitors in this segment. So if you're looking for something that's affordable, also luxurious, and efficient for what you need it for, then the 2022 Hyundai Tucson is definitely the way to go when it comes to this, because I have not seen a cargo area quite like this on the channel throughout the last few years I've reviewed compact crossovers. Then on either side of the rear cargo area, you will have quick release tabs to quickly and conveniently lower those rear seats. So if you are on the go and you don't have time to be manually lowering those seats, you don't really want to waste energy, you can do that and then load up your vehicle, and then you can be on the road. And then once you're done, just press the button and the lift gate will close automatically. Alright, so let's take the Hyundai Tucson out for a test ride to see how it performs, how it handles, how it drives, and how it compares to other compact crossovers on the market today. Now actually, I did get a test drive as a passenger in this vehicle a few hours ago, and I was highly impressed with how smooth it was. So hopefully as a driver I get that same feedback. Now just like with the Hyundai Santa Fe, you actually sit pretty high up. Unlike most compact crossovers, I have a pretty good amount of vision to work with in front of me. A-pillars are not very aggressive at all, and I can see everything. So from a safety aspect, this is pretty nice. What really stands out to me about the Hyundai Tucson really is how smooth it is. Not only when it comes to accelerations, but also the suspension as well. And of course, these leather seats are really comfortable. They're heated and ventilated, so on a very hot day like today, which is surprising for early April, I can turn on those ventilated seats and be nice and cool. Now when it comes to road noise, it's actually pretty quiet in here. So very well insulated. Of course, I am in the Limited today, so we're talking higher trims and probably higher quality materials. And it's nice, it really is. This is what you would expect from a vehicle at around $38,000. What I will say though is that lane centering is very aggressive. All I need to do is just go over this white line and it kicks me right over, and it also tells me to keep my hands on the steering wheel. So really great to see, especially where this vehicle might be used as a daily driver for a younger adult, especially where this could be a family vehicle too, where you let the young driver in the family take the vehicle out. You want to have those safety systems in place to make sure that they do not get themselves into trouble. I like that. Now, since we are on a 2-lane road, I do want to see what the acceleration is like, just so that I can safely merge up ahead. So we are going to put this vehicle in sport mode, and I'll engage the paddle shifters as well. But what I like about the interior of the new Tucson is that it wraps around you. So the dashboard layout is more rounded, and it gives you this entry-level luxury experience that you're looking for at this price range. I think what Hyundai is trying to do is they're trying to carve a niche for themselves where they undercut the Germans. They undercut BMW, Audi, Mercedes-Benz by giving you the ability where if you are looking at, say, a BMW X1 or Audi Q3, you can save some money and get something even better with the Tucson. And it really is. When you're looking at $38,000, I think this is better than most of the competition right now, especially when you're comparing it to a Honda CR-V or Toyota RAV4. Not too bad, not too bad. Obviously, you're not going to be thrown back in your seat, but it does the job. It gets you up to speed pretty quickly. So when it comes to getting on the highway, it's going to get you up to speed safely, and you can pass slower drivers for sure. But I am going to put the Tucson back in normal mode. This is really where this vehicle feels at its best. And that's the way it is for most non-sports oriented crossovers. So I think if you're looking for a great daily driver that is comfortable and relaxing, that's what the Tucson is all about. Now, as I talked about with the interior, I think where Hyundai really scores a lot of points among consumers in the United States is that it's really the packaging. It's everything that you experience behind the wheel, because the interior is where you're going to spend all your time while you're driving. So you might as well have a comfortable environment and a driving environment that you want to be behind the wheel of at all times, and that's exactly what we have here. I like the technology as well that you find in Hyundai products. So when you engage that turn signal, you get those blind spot cameras. I love seeing that. I want to see more brands go with this setup, because a lot of people are not focusing to what's in front of them on the road. They're all looking at their smartphones, and it's just a very dangerous time to be out on the road right now, especially where people are way too distracted. So let's put the Tucson in sport mode, see how it performs getting on the highway. Steering responsiveness does tighten up a bit. Also, I like the throttle response as well. And let's see how it performs. There is a little bit of body roll, but not too bad. You get a decent amount of passing power. Really nice. Now again, you're not going to be breaking any speed records, but to get on the highway safely, to pass slower drivers, this is more than adequate. Now, speaking of distractions, one thing that I do like is the fact that the infotainment system is blended into the dashboard rather than being at eye level, because when you have those infotainment systems that are attached to the dashboard, it does create a bit of a distraction. Whereas this is closer to the center console and you don't really pick that up in your peripheral vision. So I like that. But also, this infotainment system is very responsive. So if you want to go through different menus, you can, and you can do that very safely. Then also the center console too. All the buttons are within arm's reach, and you can easily access your ventilated seats, which would be great on a nice hot day like today, which is pretty rare for early April up here in Massachusetts. Also, you can use your heated seats, your heated steering wheel, also access your camera systems as well, and everything's just all within arm's reach. I love that. I think this is a great setup. Now, in sport mode, you do feel the steering tighten up a bit. Throttle response gets a little more aggressive, but what I do like though is that when it comes to braking, the braking power is really impressive for a consumer crossover. You don't need to mash on the brake pedals to stop this vehicle, and that's really great because there are some competitors out there where I feel like the braking just isn't responsive enough, and maybe it's just because I come from a vehicle that has sports brakes. But when it comes to those situations where you need to stop on a dime, the brake pedals feel really good here. But overall, after this test drive and reviewing this vehicle for the past few hours, it has exceeded my expectations in more ways than one. I think really overall though, it's the interior comfort and just the refinement. They've definitely taken a step forward compared to last generation, but also I think when it comes to the overall comfort, this is what people are looking for in this segment. They want a vehicle that gives them the best bang for their buck, and I think that's exactly what the Tucson is offering. Overall though, when it comes to just the entire driving environment, driving experience, this is a really great vehicle that I think could compete with the best of them in the compact crossover segment. And I felt that the Mazda CX-5 was one of the best in its segment, but I think after this test drive, looking at the technology that you have here, the interior space, the practicality, this is definitely one of the best for sure in 2021. So at the end of the day, in my mind, the Hyundai Tucson is setting the bar for what a compact crossover should be in 2021. And really, we don't see this with other brands in this segment or price range. And it's just the way it's presented. I want to come back to the presentation, because it might not be the best vehicle in its segment, but the way Hyundai has packaged this vehicle, the interior layout, just the way that it drives and performs, since we do not have a CVT. That's what stands out to me at the end of the day, because even though it's not a sports-oriented crossover, it might not have the most performance numbers, the highest performance numbers, when it comes to just the overall refinement, that to me is enough to really put this at the top of the list amongst its competitors. When you have the interior layout, this is what you expect in an entry-level luxury vehicle, and I think that's where Hyundai is going. They're focusing on that entry-level luxury segment around $35,000 to maybe $45,000, and they're achieving that with the Tucson. This is a step up from what we see with the RAV4 and Honda CR-V. So I'm really impressed. I don't normally say that with a lot of vehicles in this segment. Even though I like the Mazda CX-5, this is what you expect from a vehicle in 2021. And I think that it should definitely be at the list, on the top of your list of considerations if you are looking at buying a compact crossover, because I think you are going to be impressed and blown away by what you have. Not only when it comes to the interior layout, but also the interior space and the practicality. Dare I say, it might be unrivaled. We have not seen many compact crossovers offering 38 cubic feet of room. So if you are looking for a vehicle and you want to have something that's practical and efficient, then going with the Tucson might be a great option to go with in this price range. So guys, thank you so much for watching this video. Please like, comment, share, and subscribe for more. Also make sure to follow me on Instagram at Boston Autoblog so you can see what I'm up to and what vehicles I'll be featuring in the future. And I will see you guys next time.